Corporal punishment is remembered today as something our parents or grandparents gripe about when they tell us about how much better things were in their day, and how they had discipline. But it was actually an ancient ritual used on criminals and in education, which survived into the late 80s. Corporal punishment can be traced back as far as ancient Greece, where it was used in Sparta in the education of young boys, and in Rome, where it was used to punish prisoners. Corporal punishment remained a common method of disciplining children well into the 80s, when the rise of many anti-violence movements around the world led to the abandonment of its use. However, until it was banned, it was a common form of discipline in schools as well as in the home.
One of the sisters that I had in 6th grade always used to slap us, going down the aisle. So whether it was because you didn't have your homework or whether it was because you maybe mouthed off or whatever it might have been. So that was used.
When I was in primary school, the nuns used to hit us with the strap, especially if we missed Mass on Sundays. We were made to stand up, and Monday morning Sister would ask us if we'd been to Mass, and if we didn't, sometimes we got the strap, depending on which sister it was. Sometimes we got the strap if we just talked in class, because we used to have class sizes of 60, 70 or 80.
During its heyday, corporal punishment was believed to be an effective solution to the problem of disciplining children, and as a result it was widely used in the educational system. And it did have its advantages.
I think the thing about corporal punishment was, if it wasn't done in anger, if the brother or the teacher or the sister wasn't doing it in anger or wasn't out of control, it was swift, was over and done with. You knew you did the wrong thing, and that was it. There were no physical effects from it, It was just something that you knew would happen. Nobody questioned it.
I could use a story Matt Smith actually told me. Matt Smith was a guy who taught here for 53 years and actually went to school here in the 40s. And he told me a story one time about how he lived right in the neighborhood and he ditched to go home for lunch. And when he came back, brother somebody caught him right as he was walking in the door, and he said he smacked him just right upside the head and damn near knocked him down a flight of stairs. And Matt tells the story. He says one of the interesting things about that was he never ditched anymore, and it was never spoken about again. So it was over, it was done with, it began there, it ended there. I mean, that's a benefit to corporal punishment. Of course, the liabilities are a lot bigger. What if he hit him smack in the ear and popped his eardrum? And there's all kinds of liability issues there. But in the asset point of view, I mean, you didn't have, an act that was, as soon as it was caught in an act doing something, it was punished on the spot, and it was over and done with right there and then.
The liabilities were indeed much higher, and many lawsuits were raised against teachers who took their aggression out on their students. With these incidents becoming increasingly common in the public forum, movements began against corporal punishment, and the world began to awaken to the many problems with this long-cherished system.
I think it moved towards extremes, and it became a very subjective and a very individualized way of doing something. And I think there are also some, I hate to say it, but some really twisted people that might have used physical correction as a way of taking out their own anger on somebody. And when it becomes that practice, then it really can do a lot of damage psychologically and physically on somebody. So I would think they took that away because some children do not deserve to be the recipients of somebody else's anger when physical expression is used for them.
As incidents like the death of Reginald Canceller at the hands of his schoolmaster in 1960 reached the public ear, the anti-corporal punishment movement mobilized, and as a result, many countries started to ban the practice. Now, while the U.S. never fully banned corporal punishment, restrictions were placed on its use and individual states banned it in their public school systems. Today, many argue that though it was an inherently flawed system because it had to resort to violence, it had its place and it had its successes.
I don't know if it would work now, but I think then it was very effective, because that's what was done. That was how you were disciplined. You knew if you did this, you got maybe, as we used to say, 6 of the best, and that was 6 of the best wallops from the strap or from the cane. And you used to get them on your hand. When I was in boarding school, sometimes the brothers would make us touch our toes and we'd get whacked on the behind with the cane. That really hurt.
I think it had its place for some students. I think it was more of a respect and embarrassment issue. I don't think nowadays students are embarrassed about anything they do. So in terms of that being the result of it, a student being embarrassed into doing the right thing, I don't think that would work. I think we have to find other ways to get students to seek out the right ways to act or choose the right paths to go.
I think we've got some fantastic teachers today who are very effective in the classroom and have, classroom discipline. They don't have to hit anybody to be able to get their point across. So I think that, it was a different way of trying to get students' attention, trying to get students to behave, or trying to get students to make sure they're on the right path. And today we do it in a different way.
The anti-corporal punishment movement was a result of, and a huge contributor to, the new culture of nonviolence that did not only influence the United States, but the world. Corporal punishment had its day, but now as a more aware culture and a society more sensitive to that kind of violence and abuse, we have changed to a more understanding approach.
I think that there's this theory, and I'm sure there's been some studies done, I haven't seen any recently, that would say that, are we creating a more violent person or environment that the person's entering into if in fact schools were still allowed to use corporal punishment. And I think that, I would probably be in agreement that it's probably better off now that we don't use it, because then you guys leave here with not a sense that you get your own way by beating somebody up.
I don't think that we should ever respond in a physical or violent way with anybody. I think we have to start teaching ourselves and teaching children that there are other ways to get a corrective behavior, and it has to be, we just have to re-educate ourselves, and that means also re-educating children, that they don't have to be hit in order to do something different.
Thoughts on corporal punishment as a whole?
Bring it back.
No, okay. Sure. Alright.
God!
You guys catch that? Yeah. Put it down.
Oh! Nut shot.
That's gonna be it.
Oh!
Like that. Yeah, that works.
Shit.